Okay. So last time nawala ako dun sa Zoom, akala ko naka-on yung mic ko, no? So kung yung pala hindi ko na-on, salita ako ng salita sa isang section. Okay, kita na? Keep your camera on. Nag-o-observe pa rin ako, and if you're not there, especially when you are cold, then you will be marked absent. Okay, let's start class. Complications. Okay, good afternoon again. So let's have our last lecture, which is all about complications. Okay, complications is something to be expected in any dental procedures. Okay, complications may happen immediately, okay, as the error happen, or complications may be observed, no, days after you perform the procedure as a late complication. Okay, we can divide this into two groups. We have the local complications, which is somehow easier, no, to prevent, okay, by understanding the principles of our anesthetic solutions, okay, understanding the principles of your techniques, as well as your case selection, is what we have mentioned during our pre-anesthetic evaluation. Okay, easier to prevent and easier to manage. And the other group is systemic conditions or systemic complications, no, which is more complicated to manage, and sometimes, no, even if you do things correctly, okay, then systemic complications can happen. Okay, so let's start with the syncope. Syncope, or in short, fainting. Wala nang malay si patient. And this is considered to be the most frequent complication. And this is a form of neurogenic shock caused by cerebral ischemia, secondary to a vasodilation or an increase in the peripheral vascular bed with a corresponding drop in blood pressure. Okay, now we're talking of blood pressure. That's why, as as a protocol, you take the vital signs of the patient. Okay, so if it's the first time that you're seeing the patient, you get the baseline, right, of the vital signs, which includes the BP, your pulse rate, your respiratory rate, and also your temperature. Okay, do we always take the vital signs na every session? Hindi naman, di ba? So healthy patient as a one, then it is not a practice to be taking the vital signs every session. Okay, but if you're going to be performing your surgical procedures or any procedures that would be requiring your local anesthetic or even other uh, drugs that are given through IM or IV, then it is a protocol to take the vital signs. Okay, most especially if the patient is medically compromised and even geriatric patients, then it's a must that every session you take the vital signs. Why? Because as what we've said, there has to be a baseline for some. If something happens, just like a syncope, then you have something to compare, no, your vital signs before your procedure starts. Okay, so it is very important for you to be able to identify if the patient is about to faint or has fainted already. No? Baka mamaya gawa pa kayo ng gawa, tapos wala na palang malay yung pasyente. No? So every now and then, you call the attention of your patient, especially when they close their eyes, no, during your procedure. Akala niya natutulog lang, yung pala wala ng malay si patient. Okay, so if you have identified that the patient has lost consciousness, so what do you do? Of course, you discontinue any procedure, correct? And you put the patient in a position, okay, in a semi-reclining position wherein the legs and thorax slightly elevated so that you have a good return of the blood to the brain. And always check the vital signs. Now, syncope, magigising naman si pasyente, no? Kung talagang syncope lang yan. Okay, but once the patient awakes, no, or conscious again, then please don't continue the procedure anymore and explain what happened to the patient and then dismiss the patient as long as the vital signs are stable again. Okay. The next complication is the needle breakage. Although nowadays it's very rare that we encounter needle breakage now because of the material that we use. Our needle is made up of a very strong metal, no? Stainless steel. And it is of choice also of what gauge are you going to use, so that you use a very strong, no, needle. But there are times that it still happens, no? Even with the wrong or even with the correct choice of your size or gauge, no? Okay, how can it happen? Okay, so this can be caused by sudden, unexpected movement by the patient. Nagulat si patient, no? You warn the patient that you're going to do the injection, tapos bigla siyang nagulat, gumalaw. So if the bone or the needle is contacting the bone, or if the muscle contracts because of the surprise nga si patient, then the needle can break. Okay. Another reason is yun nga, yung use of your smaller gauge, which is your gauge 13 needle, and those that have previously been bent. Okay. There are times that we bend the needle, remember, during our discussion of our techniques. Bending the needle is when you do your intraligamentary injection as well as the intrapulpal injection for the purpose of gaining access, no, to your sulcus. So if this is the tooth, diba? And if you're going to perform your intraligamentary and you need to direct the needle, okay, into the sulcus, then it is easier if the needle is bent. Okay? Same thing as if you need to do your intrapulpal injection, then you also bend the needle. And these are the only reasons, okay, or cases that you bend the needle. Now, if you need to do another injection, then please change the needle, because if you will straighten this bent needle, these areas are already weak, diba? And if you straighten it and if you insert it to the tissue, then it might break. Okay? So if you see somebody, or if you see supervisors, when you go to your clinic level, bending the needle, then please don't copy it as long as you feel confident that if you break the needle, you can retrieve it. Okay? So kung walang ganong uh, then just don't bend the needle. Okay? So how do we prevent? So use the correct gauge, and we stick with a gauge 25 or 27, remember? Okay, use long needles for injections requiring deep penetration. So I have observed some of you probably not very observant, no, na nakaload during the local infiltration or even the nasopalatal nerve block long needle, diba? So if you're going to be performing techniques, diba, part of the armamentaria is included, choice of your armamentaria is included in the success rate of your injection. Because nga, if you use your long needle for just a shallow needle penetration, then that is also a source of needle breakage. Okay. Another thing is, do not insert the needle into the tissues to the hub, because we said that hub is the weakest point and it is where the breakage usually happens. And once the needle is inserted in the tissue, then please avoid redirecting the needle. Okay, that's why if you're going to remember our choice of technique when we do our conventional inferior alveolar nerve block, there are two techniques. If you can do the direct technique or you can do the indirect technique. So what is the difference between the two? When you do the direct inferior alveolar nerve block, then you do not change position. Diba? So you deposit all your solution in one area only. But when you do the indirect technique, diba, you deposit 1.5 ml of solution, and then you withdraw the needle halfway, and then you shift or you swing the syringe to the other side for the lingual nerve. Okay, so if you are confident or if your success is more on the indirect, then that's good. But as long as, again, you do it correctly and you do not surprise your patient, no, the patient doesn't move, then you lessen the chance of needle breakage. Okay, but again, as much as possible, avoid movement or avoid redirecting your needle once you are inside the soft tissue. Okay, another one is pain. Pain is expected. Sakit talaga yan. The needle insertion, the patient will not feel it because of your topical anesthetic solution, correct? But the patient will start to feel, probably most of you can relate to this, no, when you became the patient. When your partner starts to inject, and that's the time you feel the pain, correct? Okay. So if you do it, no, carelessly, yan, and with callous attitude, kaya nga minsan sa tabi nyo ako, sinasabi ko, relax, inhale, exhale, you slow the position, no, just to remind you of if you're doing it very fast now, and I can see the patient is in pain. No? Okay, use of dull needle from multiple injections. Remember, at first, our needle is very sharp. But with the succeeding needle penetration, it loses sharpness. Kaya kung nakakailang tusok ka na, okay, 3 to 4 needle penetrations, you change needle na because it is not very sharp. And dull needle as well as barbed needle or fish hook needle will cause trauma as the needle passes through in and out of the tissue, right? And that is another source of pain. If you deposit the solution too fast, and use of needles with barbs as what we've said. Okay, so if the patient starts to feel pain, then the patient would start to feel also anxious and may lead sudden unexpected movement and may also lead to needle breakage. So parang domino effect na yan. Okay, another one is burning on injection. So pain and burning sensation is different. Burn is parang mahapde. No? And this is also a normal reaction to our solution. Why? Because of the pH of our solution. Remember, our solution is acidic. Diba? And if our solution contains vasoconstrictor, then it becomes more acidic. So acidity of our solution causes pain or burning sensation, especially those patients who have low pain threshold level. Okay, that is expected, that is normal. But burning on injection is not normal if you do your injection rapidly, right? And use of your contaminated solution by your cold sterilizing agent. That's why, class, it is not advisable to immerse your solution or your cartridges to disinfect it. Diba? You want kasi it clean, you want it disinfected. Then some people would immerse it in their cold sterilizing agent, yung mga glutaraldehyde. And without you knowing it, those chemicals can enter your cartridges and be mixed with your solution. And when you inject your contaminated solution to your patient, then this is the result. Okay. If the burning on injection is caused by by our pH of the solution, then it will not cause any residual sensitivity or effect. No? Wala lang. Parang wala lang nangyari. But if the burning sensation is caused by use of contaminated solution or because you've injected too rapidly, then it can cause damage to the tissue. And after your injection, patient may experience trismus, edema, or possibly paresthesia. Okay? So kung burning sensation kasi acidic lang, okay lang yon. Pero kung masyadong mabilis ka, lalo na contaminated, then that is another thing. It can cause further complications. Okay, what is this paresthesia? Okay, paresthesia is prolonged numbness. Okay, we have expected duration of our solution, about 1 hour, 2 hours, or even sometimes 3 hours. Or sometimes if it's a short duration, it's only 30 minutes. Diba? That is expected duration. But if the patient, no, halos isang araw na tatawag sa inyo, manhid pa rin, I still don't feel anything, or it's been a week already or months, then that is not normal. So that is what you call paresthesia. Okay, so this is caused by injection again of your contaminated solution. Okay, by direct contact of your needle to the nerve. Okay, that's why you have to know your anatomy in order for you not to be inserting your needle in the area of the nerve. Your lingual nerve is outside the soft tissue. It's in the soft tissue. And that is a nerve that you can encounter. Mental nerve also is in the soft tissue. And that nerve can also be encountered by your needle as well as your solution. Okay? Hemorrhage, bleeding, because you have contacted a blood vessel, and the blood will pull out of the blood vessel and pull into the surrounding tissue. So your hemorrhage can cause compression on that nerve, okay, causing paresthesia also. Okay, and most cases of paresthesia can resolve in approximately 8 weeks without treatment. But you do not give assurance to the patient, oy, 2 months, wala na yan. Because there are cases that it can last for years na nandun pa rin siya. Okay, and most cases involved is the lingual nerve with the inferior alveolar nerve as close second. So what do we do? Reassure the patient. Okay? In fact, if you are thinking of a high risk of paresthesia, especially if it's surgery related, if you're going to do your impaction of your third molar, or if you need to do removal of impacted tooth in the area of your mental foramen or in the mental nerve is there, diba? So you tell the patient of the possible complications before you start so that they are aware that it can happen. And if it happens, then at least they are informed. Walang sisihan. Okay? But if it happens, then just reassure the patient. Determine the degree and extent of paresthesia. You do some form of testing by pricking it with the needle in the area of your affected area and log it. Place it on your progress notes so that you can determine the extent of the paresthesia so that when you recall the patient, okay, every 2 months, then you will see if the area affected is getting smaller or pareho pa rin. Okay, so you have a basis of your assessment of improvement. Okay, so record all findings on the patient's chart. What is trismus? Okay, trismus is a motor disturbance of the trigeminal nerve, especially spasm of the masticatory muscle, wherein the patient would experience difficulty of opening the mouth. Okay, so what causes trismus when it comes to our anesthesia? No? Trauma to muscles or blood vessels. Tuso ka ng tuso, lalo na if you're doing your inferior alveolar nerve block. You're trying to look for the bone contact, di ba? Dok, wala pa akong mahanap. Or, Dok, natuso ko na, contact ko na yung bone, I'm still too shallow. Okay. Parang ginawa mo ng dartboard yung mucosa. Diba? Tusok ng tuso. So that causes trauma to the muscle. Okay, injection of contaminated solution. Hemorrhage again in the area. Okay, if there is an infection can also cause trismus, multiple needle penetrations, and lastly, excessive volume of LA is deposited into a restricted area. Remember our pterygomandibular space, which is your target or your objective when you do the ion block. the capacity of the pterygomandibular space is only 5 ml, correct? And if you're going to count how many carpules to accommodate that 5 ml space, it's only about less than 3. Tapos tatanungin, ilan na na-inject mo? Doc, nakapito na ako. Doc, nakasampu na ako. Diba? So much solution is injected in a restricted space, then that can lead to difficulty in mouth opening post-injection. Okay, so what do? We do our heat therapy. Warm compress lang, right? So warm compress 20 minutes every hour. And of course, the patient will be in pain during function, during speaking, during chewing. Then you give your analgesics. You can also have your muscle relaxants and even advise the patient to do physiotherapy, although it's very difficult to have the compliance of the patient to do the physiotherapy kasi nga they are in pain. So how do you do this? So you ask the patient to do exercise, open, close, do lateral excursions of the mandible for 5 minutes every 3 to 4 hours to improve the mouth opening. Siyempre, painful yan. So you ask the patient to do the physiotherapy after taking the analgesic. So naka-analgesic sila so that they can tolerate the exercise. Okay. Trismus should improve within 48 hours. Okay? If it's caused by trauma, by hemorrhage, but if trismus persists more than 48 hours or more than 3 days, then consider infection in the area. And that is the time you give your antibiotics. Okay? Full dose, 7 days. Another one is hematoma. Hematoma is bruising, pasa, diba? So this is caused by effusion of blood into the extravascular spaces. Some of you have experienced hematoma during your injection. Kasi too much shaking of your hand. I know some of you can relate. And I even pointed it out when you're doing your injection. So you can see that there is hematoma formation on your area of puncture. Okay? Bakit? Kasi nga, galaw ng galaw yung kamay, yung needle sa loob, galaw ng galaw din. And that causes bleeding, effusion of the blood into the space, and would result into hematoma formation. Okay, depending also on the density of the tissue, okay, surrounding the injured vessel, then hematoma may be more visible than the others. Okay, so elderly would be more susceptible to this kind of complication. Usually, hematoma happens in what technique? You have the Pisan block, remember? That's why over-insertion of your needle when you do your posterior superior alveolar nerve block can result into hematoma because you might be in the area of the pterygoid plexus of vein. That's why it is advisable to just use your short needle when you do the Pisan block. And another one is the iron block. Okay. If you have hematoma in the area, you tell me if I'm fast, but this is somehow a review. I hope you can relate to what I'm talking about. Okay, so if there would be hematoma, okay, formation of blood clot also in the area, then it can also result again to trismus and pain. And even sometimes hematoma can be a nidus for bacteria to settle and infection may also happen. Okay. Hematoma is self-limiting. Pasa lang yan diba? So mawawala din yan, even without treatment. But what is more concern on the patient, especially if it's seen on the skin, kung intraoral yan, hindi naman masyadong halata yan. It causes inconvenience on our patient, no? So if you will see your patient ang laki ng pasa sa mukha, it's just because of your anesthesia technique. But other than that, then it will subside within several days, just like any bruising. Okay, so if you see bleeding, diba, sabi ko sa inyo, control the bleeding, put pressure, because pressure will stop the bleeding, diba, and would prevent hematoma formation. So immediately put pressure for about 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, but subsequently, if the hematoma is formed and if there would be soreness in the area, then you do your analgesic and do your warm compress. And with or without treatment, it will be present there for about 1 to 2 weeks. Okay. Another complication is infection. Although it's very rare to see infection related to your anesthesia technique. Why? Because your needles are supposed to be disposable, di ba? Pag inopen mo yan, even if you open a wrong needle, dispose it immediately. Okay? Because once you break the seal, then you break the being sterile. Okay, your cartridges also is disposable. So even if you finish it, kung meron pang natira, you dispose it also. You sterilize your instruments, and the best sterilization technique is your autoclave. So infection is not very common to happen, no? But it still can happen, no? If you are not very careful with your armamentaria and handling of your instruments and tissue. Okay, so this is caused by use of your contaminated needle, improper technique in handling your equipment, your instruments. Kaya sabi ko, kapag may nahulog dyan na instrument and pack up na, di ba? Ang ano yun, ang sharp ng tenga ko pag nakakarinig ako ng may nahuhulog na tumbling dyan, di ba? Because class, it usually happens talaga kapag natatanggalan talaga ng tumbling at nahuhulog. Of course, you cannot pick it up and attach it again and use it because it is not sterile anymore. Okay, another thing is the tissue preparation. And as part of our tissue preparation is you use your antiseptic mouth rinses, correct? So you can use your chlorhexidine mouth rinse, or you can use your povidone iodine mouth rinse as to lessen the microorganisms in the oral cavity. Okay, another thing that I've noticed, class, some of you are so fond of touching the mucosa, the entire length of the needle, na nakatouch sa mucosa or even dun sa braces ng patients nyo. Okay, please refrain from touching your needle. Only the tip of the needle should touch the mucosa and let it enter, no? The length of the needle enter the soft tissue nang walang naka-attach dyan. Because remember, your saliva, your oral cavity, your braces, no, are full of microorganisms that should not be introduced beyond the mucosa. Correct? That's why we do our mouth rinses, right? So how do we prevent? Use your disposable needles. Okay, always recap your needle when not in use. So some of you also I've seen, probably medyo napapanik lang, no? Bababa dun sa sa bracket table wherein the needle is exposed. Okay, always make it a habit talaga. Pag binitawan nyo yung syringe nyo, cover talaga in a scoop up technique. Okay, and avoid multiple injection with the same needle. 3 to 4 tries or needle insertion, change it. Okay, cartridges are used only once, one patient, no? One cartridge. Store it aseptically in the original container. As much as possible, if you buy it in a blister pack or if you buy it in cans of 50 cartridges, then please try to keep there in the original storage. Okay? But if you happen to place it, because if you have your own way of organizing your things, okay, make sure that the area you're going to place your cartridges should be clean. Okay, and cleanse the diaphragm with your alcohol wipes. No need to immerse it in your glutyl aldehyde. Okay, and dry the tissue. And as what we've said, use your topical antiseptic mouth rinses. Okay, another one is edema. Edema is swelling. Wala naman ako nakita. And nag-swell. Okay? Swelling of tissues, and this is caused by trauma during injection. Okay, infection can also cause swelling. Okay, or it may be part of an allergic reaction. Nag-angioedema na pala si patient, no? Hemorrhage can also cause swelling and injection of irritating solutions. Okay? Sloughing of tissues. When you say sloughing, no, nagde-desquamate. So when the patient comes back, no, you can see that there is desquamation of the mucosa and the area of your injection. Why? Because this may be an application of topical anesthetic agent to gingival tissues for a prolonged period. Minsan nagugulat pa ako parang aatakihin ako sa puso. May mga nakatusok doon ng mga swab doon sa patient, no? Parang walrus yung patient nyo, may naka-stick out, no? Or sometimes iniiwan nyo yung cotton ball doon sa soft tissue. Don't. Kasi that is an irritant. Okay? So you just apply and then that's it. No need to leave any swab or any cotton. Hindi siya magiging mas effective. Okay, same thing also as the amount of your topical anesthetic. Sometimes, hindi ko na nakikita yung mucosa kasi full of topical anesthetic solution. Minsan akala ko may dugo kasi pink yung yung anesthetic solution. Minsan yellow yung topical. Akala ko merong pus dun sa area. Yung pala, sobrang dami nyo lang nilalagay. No? So that is also an irritant. Okay, another thing is baka may allergic reaction si patient, no? Okay, kaya nagpo-cause ng sloughing issues. Okay, is it good? Of course not. Pain can be experienced because the barrier, your outer mucosa is desquamated, no? Exposing the submucosal area. So that is can cause pain on our patient and possibility of infection. Okay, can happen. But it can be resolved within a few days. Okay, another one is trauma. Okay, trauma to the lips and tongue. Okay, hanggang siya.
Wait nyo lang yan, class.
Ano siya?
Hang lang yan. You just wait.
Can you still see? Pero hindi siya nag-move, no? Parang nag-pause siya.
Oo. Just wait. Kasi bumabagal na yung computer. Kailangan ma-shutdown na.
Ganyan na lang. May class na. Okay, can you see?
Yes, Doc, bumalik na po ulit.
Okay, so let's go to the other trauma, no? To the other complication, which is trauma to the lips and tongue. Okay, this happens, no, if in pediatric patients or even in patients who are mentally handicapped. Why? Because you know that when you do your injection for them, the feeling is weird, no, for them, especially if it's a long duration of action. Of course, they don't understand that the tendency is for them to play, no, with the area. So let's take, for example, if you do your inferior alveolar nerve block, then the lip is also anesthetized, and the tendency for them is to chew, diba? Or to bite because they are not feeling anything, and without them knowing, it's already injured already. Okay? So that's why you have to tell the guardian or the parents to watch the patient until there is a complete wearing away of the anesthesia. Okay, because this is caused by our long-acting LA as well as in patients undergoing only a short duration procedure. Okay, so if there would be trauma, injury, then what can we do? So if there is pain, you give your analgesics. If the area is showing infection, then you can prescribe your antibiotics. You can ask the patient to do lukewarm rinses, okay, and even cover the area with petroleum jelly for added protection. Okay, and lastly, we have the paralysis. Paresthesia class is for the sensory nerve, right? Just like your iron. But for paralysis, then we are talking of motor nerve. Okay, and what motor nerve is affected here? If the patient would have facial nerve paralysis, it is the facial nerve. Okay, and when can we encounter the facial nerve? If you do your inferior alveolar nerve block too posteriorly, right? Because in the area of our pterygomandibular space, at the back of it is where the facial nerve runs, in the area of our parotid gland. Okay, so it is caused by inadvertent deflection of needle in a posterior direction when you do your mandibular block, either the conventional or the Akinosi closed mouth technique. But this is only transient, so meaning it can recover, okay, after the complete wearing away of the anesthesia, and the motor function will return. Okay, so this can last for 1 to several hours. Okay, let's go to systemic complications. Tatlo lang yan. Number 1, we have our toxicity, which we have been mentioning since day 1. Then we have our allergy, and the other one is idiosyncrasy. Okay, let's talk about the overdose first, or also known as toxicity. Okay, so toxicity is over administration of a drug resulting into elevated levels of the LA in the bloodstream. Okay? And this is caused by several factors. Hindi lang dahil ang dami mong inilagay, pero sometimes, Doc, bakit dalawa pa lang parang nagto-toxicity na si patient? Okay? So you have to understand the other causes of it. Number 1, which is our too large a dose nga. We have injected more than the tolerance of the patient. Number 2, rapid absorption of the drug. Number 3, intravascular injection. That's why it's very important to do your aspiration. Number 4, slow biotransformation and slow elimination of the drug. Okay, so this one depends on you. This one is related to the drug. This one depends on you. But this one has something to do with the medical condition of the patient. Case selection based on your history taken, and you will identify who are these patients, that you need to be careful on how much drug are you going to inject. Okay, so let's talk about first the number 1, which is based on us. Diba? If we fail to compute, correct, for the maximum dose of our drug, and we just keep on using, then the possibility of toxicity is high. Okay? So remember that we have 2 drugs. We have the LA and we have the vasoconstrictor. You have to compute separately, right? For the LA, based on this table, if it's a healthy adult, then you compute it based on the weight of the patient. Right? So with or without vasoconstrictors, there is the different recommended um, solution or computation for it. And another drug will be your vasoconstrictor. And we have 4 types of vasoconstrictors we use, but epinephrine is more commonly available. Okay? But there is also the levonorepinephrine, which is together with the mepivacaine 2%. Okay? So that's why, class, when you are buying your drugs, or when you are loading it, the actual loading and the actual using it, make sure that you know what you are using, okay? So that you can also adjust your computation. Baka mamaya ang computation mo is epinephrine, pero ang nakaload pala sa iyo is levonorepinephrine. Correct? Okay. Another one is rapid absorption. So this is based on the drug, right? So we said, class, that local anesthesia or local anesthetic solution, plain, are all vasodilators. That's why nga, if you go back to this one, if you're going to use a plain lidocaine, you will only use a smaller amount. Comparing it, if you have vasoconstrictor, same LA lidocaine, you can have it up to 7 milligrams per kilogram. Why can you not use the same amount when you compute? Kasi nga, if it's a plain one, it is vasodilator. And if it's a vasodilator, then more drugs can be absorbed. You're not injecting, but the blood vessel can absorb those LA. And if you put a lot of your LA in the area, then more of it will be traveling into the blood circulation. Okay, that's why, class, sometimes we use our vasoconstrictors to counteract the vasodilating effect and will also lessen the risk of toxicity. Okay, this one is very important. And most of you, I am happy naman, I'm satisfied that most of you know how to do the aspiration. And even without me saying or commenting or telling you to do the aspiration, most of you automatic nag-aspirate talaga. Okay? So please make it a habit that when you insert the needle, aspirate, then inject. Some of you aspirated pero hindi tinitignan kung anong nakukuha. Minsan nagpa-positive na, tuloy pa rin yung aspiration kaya ang daming blood na nakukuha. You just have to pull the thumb ring a few millimeters and hold it for a few seconds. And if you see blood, then stop na. I-redirect mo na yung needle. That means you have created a negative pressure whether you get blood or not. And that's enough. Okay? So if you fail to do the aspiration, then kahit na isa pa lang yung inyong nai-inject, isang carpule pa lang, then pwedeng mag-toxicity si patient. Okay, remember that. Okay, another thing is the choice of your gauge of the needle. Remember, if you use a gauge 30, then you might be getting a false negative. Baka wala kayong na-aspirate kasi masyadong manipis yung needle. So again, stick with gauge 25 or 27. Okay, and another one is how fast are you injecting? So we said that you inject 1 ml per minute. So it's around less than 2 minutes you will finish the entire carpule, or realistically 2 ml per minute. But if you finish the entire carpule in less than 30 seconds or 15 seconds, doc tapos na, then that means that you are too fast. Nasaktan mo na si pasyente, pwede pa siyang mag-toxicity. Right? So please observe the movement of your rubber stopper as you deposit, because that will tell you if you are doing it fast or not. Kaya, class, I'm very specific also on how you position your syringe, correct? When you are doing your injection. Dapat nakikita nyo kung ano yung ginagawa nyo. when you aspirate, and when you deposit. Okay. Another one is the slow biotransformation. Remember, we have two drugs, two groups, right, of LA. You have the amide and you have the ester. The amide is metabolized. Biotransform meaning the drug is transformed from active form to inactive form. Our body should be able to biotransform the drug. Correct? So, the amide is biotransformed where? In the liver. You still recall it. The esters are biotransformed in the plasma, and it needs an enzyme, plasma cholinesterase, to inactivate the drug. So, if the patient doesn't have the enzyme, then do not use relative contraindication. Do not use your ester, right? And if the patient has liver disease, then relative contraindication is the use of your amides. Remember the relative. So relative means contraindicated is you cannot, diba? But if it's relative, you can use it as long as there is no alternative, but you use it in a less amount compared to those patients who are normal. Pwede pa rin naman kung wala talagang alternative eh. Amide, wala naman tayong injectable ester eh, correct? Doc, may liver cirrhosis si patient. Doc, may hepatitis si patient. Ano yun, hindi mo nagagamutin kasi liver. Doc, kailangan kasi niya healthy liver eh. Eh, ang patient mo wala nga healthy liver. Eh, wala naman tayong ester, correct? As injectable to use an alternative. You can still use it. You can still use your lidocaine or your amides as long as you lessen the dose. Okay, here's another thing that I want you to understand. Articaine has two areas of biotransformation. Doc, articaine is an amide, so liver, diba? But even if it's an amide, articaine is also metabolized in the plasma. Correct? So, ini-inject mo na yung articaine, then it is already starting to become metabolized in the plasma. Okay? So, knowing your medical condition of the patient, and same thing as the elimination, slow elimination can happen if the patient has kidney problems, renal disease, because kidneys is the main excretory organ. And if the kidneys are not functioning properly, then this can delay the elimination of the drug from our body. And as long as the drug is within the body, then it can also risk toxicity. Okay. And that is for our LA, excretory and biotransformation. Okay, so how will you know if your patient is already showing signs and symptoms of LA toxicity? LA, okay? It's usually, the toxicity is usually excitatory in nature. Nagiging madaldal si pasyente, di ba? Nagiging agitated, hindi ma-relax. Except for lidocaine, wherein the initial reaction is drowsiness. Kala nyo, inaantok lang si pasyente. Yung pala, nagtotoxicity na. Akala nyo, natutuwa lang si pasyente, daldal ng daldal. Yung pala, nagtotoxicity na. Okay? So, LA toxicity happens initially excitatory, and then later will be depression. Okay? Depression. Okay, so how do you manage patient? Of course, patient should be reassured. I-relax mo lang si pasyente. Okay, oxygen is given, monitor the vital signs, and if the patient is showing convulsion, excitatory, nagpo-convulse na si patient, then you give your diazepam, medyo dinadala na natin sa ER yan, and patient is given your anticonvulsant, and let the patient recover before discharge. If this happens, class, again, be honest to your patient on what happened. Don't say nagka-allergic reaction po kayo, because this is not an allergic reaction, this is a toxicity. Okay, so that to avoid confusion, that when the patient goes to another doctor in the future, baka ang marirecall niya when the next doctor gets the history is, Doc, nagka-allergic reaction. Pero wala naman siya allergy. Mahihirapan ngayon yung next doctor to choose what LA to use because of incorrect information. Now, if the patient is showing severe reaction to LA toxicity, okay, then position the patient in supine position with feet elevated. Okay, if patient is showing convulsion, then protect the patient from further injury, loosen tight binding clothing, provide basic life support. If necessary, administer anticonvulsant, and again, allow the patient to rest until recovery is sufficient to permit discharge. Now, another drug in our cartridge is the epinephrine. So the patient will also have a separate toxicity to epinephrine. And these are signs and symptoms that can be seen. Sharp elevation in blood pressure. Biglang nag-elevate. You started with 120. Sabi mo 130 over 90. And you decided to push through. Tapos biglang nag-160 na, 180 na, over 110. Why? Kasi Doc, 11 na po yung nagamit ko. Dami-dami na. Okay, so that can also cause epinephrine toxicity. Elevated heart rate and possible cardiac arrhythmias. Okay, so how do we manage if we see these signs and symptoms? Of course, terminate the dental procedure. And this time, how do you position the patient? Paupuin nyo na, not in a supine position. So patient, conscious patient is placed in a comfortable semi-reclining or erect position, because supine position will cause more elevation of your blood pressure. Okay, so sometimes yung positioning of the patient also, if the patient is hypertensive to begin with, then please don't place them in a supine position then. Medyo naka-erect sila, ha? Okay, reassure the patient that the effects will subside, kaya you calm your patient, monitor the blood pressure and administer oxygen, and monitor it for every 5 minutes as long as walang chest pain, ha? Kasi pag nag-chest pain yan, ibang usapan na yan. Hindi lang epinephrine overdose ang nagiging medical emergency niya dyan. And let the patient rest in the dental chair. Okay.
Ano na lang? Ang tawag to? 12.
Okay, let's go to allergy. Okay, allergy is defined as hypersensitive state, okay, acquired through exposure to a particular allergen. And as part of our history taking, di ba, you ask the patient if patient had a previous exposure to the drug, okay, or patient has an allergic reaction to the drug, and especially for us, as part of your dental history taking is your LA exposure and allergic reaction to the LA. So through those history taking and identifying who are these patients, then you can now choose, diba, what LA to use and what LA to avoid so as not to have an allergic reaction. Okay, allergy is not dose related. Hindi katulad nung patient has liver disease kanina, diba? So you use a smaller dose of your amines. Kasi nga, hindi nila ma-tolerate yung normal dose. But in allergy, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na, sige, gawin natin. Konti lang namang gagamitin ko. No, it is not dose related, because even a single drop of contact, of introducing the solution to the patient, it can cause an exaggerated even anaphylactic reaction. Okay? So what can we do? So how do we manage patients who are allergic? Take note ha, naka-quotation mark yung allergic to patient, meaning the patient is not sure if he had an allergic reaction to LA before. No? Kaya nga, huwag tayong mag-misinformation so as not to have fake news, no, to the next dentist to handle the patient. Okay, so again, let us not challenge the patient. Tignan nga natin kung allergic ka, di ba? Tapos gumamit ka. Ay, oo nga, allergic reaction, nangati na si patient. No, don't challenge the patient. So if you are not sure of what the patient is telling you, then delay your appointment. If it's elective, pwedeng maghintay and refer the patient for an allergic workup, no? So that to check if the patient is allergic to the drug or not. But what if it's an emergency case? Then you can handle the patient, sedate the patient, diba? Or place the patient in GA if it's only emergency cases. Pero kung mga resto lang or FPP that it can wait, then ipa-work up nyo muna si patient. Okay, so for emergency dental care, you can manage the patient through inhalation sedation. If you need to do an incision and drainage of an infection, or you can place the patient under general anesthesia, or you can use an alternative antihistamine drug, 1% Benadryl or diphenhydramine hydrochloride, okay, with 1:1,000 epinephrine. Diphenhydramine hydrochloride, also known as your Benadryl. This is an antihistamine that has a local anesthetic property. But take note, class, if you plan to use this, then you have to be very fast because it has a short duration of 30 minutes. Kaya pang emergency cases lang ito. Okay. So what can we see, okay, if the patient has allergic reaction? So it has a dermal manifestation such as urticaria and angioedema, anticipation, nagpantal-pantal, respiratory reaction such as bronchial asthma and laryngeal edema, nahirapan huminga si patient, inuubo, nagwibizing, no? Or generalized anaphylaxis. Okay, so what can we do if the patient happens to have an allergic reaction? So if it's a skin reaction, urticaria, angioedema, then you refer the patient to an ER unless you have it in your clinic, no, and administer the drug intramuscularly because IM route is faster than oral route. So give your diphenhydramine hydrochloride IM 50 milligrams and follow it up with home meds. You can prescribe this one, class. You can prescribe your diphenhydramine hydrochloride 50 milligrams, okay, every 6 hours for the next 3 to 4 days. Okay? Prescription writing tayo sa exam. What to give if the patient shows allergic reaction, Lorenzo? Okay, so you write your prescription, diphenhydramine hydrochloride 50 milligrams. Dispense how many? Kasi if it's 3 to 4 days, every 6 hours, so that is 4 times a day, times sabihin natin 3 days, then you dispense 12 capsules, and then your SIG or your instruction to the patient is take 1 cup every 6 hours for 3 days. Okay, this is antihistamine. And one of the complications or side effects, not complications, side effect of your antihistamine is drowsiness. So if you're going to prescribe this, class, advise your patient to avoid driving, refrain from driving, or using mga heavy machinery. Kung sa factory nag-work si pasyente, sabihan niya na huwag siyang mag-operate ng mga machines that can cause accidents kasi nga nakakaantok yung drug. Okay? And obtain medical consultation to determine the cause of the reaction. Okay? Klase na sabi ko na sa inyo kung ano pwedeng bukas sa exam. It's up to you if you're going to listen to me or not. Okay. Bronchial asthma naman. Okay? Terminate dental therapy and patient place in a semi-erect position, administer oxygen, and administer epinephrine or other bronchodilator inhaler, or you inject your 0.3 ml of 1:1,000 epinephrine. So epinephrine is also an emergency drug, no, for allergic reaction. Okay, administer your antihistamine, diphenhydramine hydrochloride, and prescribe your oral dose of 50 milligrams diphenhydramine hydrochloride every 6 hours for the next 3 to 4 days. Okay. Doc, nagsasara na yung airway ko. Yan. Okay. So, laryngeal edema. Exaggerated reaction to the allergen. So, place the patient in supine position. Administer 0.3 ml of 1:1,000 epinephrine IV or IM. You need a faster route. And your goal is to maintain the airway kasi nag-e-edema na yung larynx. And if the larynx really closes, then you have to have a new airway through your cricothyrotomy. So you have to establish another airway. Okay, summon medical assistance and administer oxygen. A antihistamine IM, corticosteroid IM is given, and in severe cases, cricothyrotomy is being performed. Clear? And lastly, to end the semester, we have the idiosyncrasy, which is an adverse drug reaction that cannot be explained by any known pharmacological or biochemical mechanisms. And this one class is neither an overdose nor an allergic reaction.
Questions?
Any questions?
Okay, so listening to the lecture somehow is a review also, no? Because topics discussed during the first grading period as well as the second grading period, no, were mentioned as related to the, or as a cause, no, to the complications. Okay, walang questions dito. We leave this one. And let's review our computation. And you can do the computation together with the lecture so that you can practice and see if you're getting it or not, no? Okay, let me stop sharing. Makinig lang para lahat naman na tuturo. And even sometimes I give tips na on how the exam will be, no? Given, how it will be given. Paano po na malalaman if idiosyncrasy lang siya pero may kapareho po siyang symptoms sa ibang systemic complications? Hindi siya kasi walang history of allergy, di ba? Or if it's not really, you stick with not being giving too much medication as a cause of your toxicity, no? So there are really something na cannot be explained na it happens, no? And that is classified as idiosyncrasy. Kasi obvious naman if it will be allergy or not. Okay? Any more questions? Okay, last, before we end the semester, no? last discussion. Kaya magtanong na kayo, no, for something that you still do not understand, right? And of course, you have to do your own reading also, no? Okay, let's start class. Get your previous notes on the computation. It's the same case, no? But you can do it again if you want new notes para kung naguguluhan kayo sa dati. Okay, let's start class.
Okay. So our goal for today is to know how to do your computation, no, of the maximum dose of our drugs. And our drugs contain the two, no? Our solution contains two drugs, which is your LA as well as your vasoconstrictors. Okay. So this is a table showing you of the maximum dose, no, of local anesthetics for healthy individual, for healthy adults. Okay. So if we're going to compute for the maximum dose of LA, it is based on the weight of the patient. So as part of your vital signs, the height and the weight is also included, no? Particularly of the weight, no? Because we're going to be computing based on the weight of the patient. Okay, so this is the list for healthy adults. You have a copy of this one. Picture. You can take picture of this, no, for your reference. Okay, so if you're trying to compute for the maximum dose using your lidocaine, so this is our formula, no? So if you're going to use a plain one, please be careful with your mic, no? So you can just use your mic if you have questions or if you want to say something, no? Okay, so if you're going to be using your lidocaine, depending on if you're going to use it plain or with vasoconstrictor, no? So it has different recommendations. So if you're going to be using a plain one, then our computation will be 4.4 milligrams per kilogram for our patient, up to 300 milligrams. And if you're going to be using your LA, lidocaine, with vasoconstrictor, then it will be 7 milligrams per kilogram, up to 500 milligrams. And same thing as for your mepivacaine, although both of them, no, whether it be plain or with vasoconstrictor, pareho lang. The 6.6 and 6.6. Okay. But if we're going to be computing for the dose on a pediatric patient, it's different. No? So your pediatric patient would mean they are less than 18 years old. So anybody who is less than 18, no, we use this computation. So for your lidocaine, with epinephrine, it's 4.5 milligrams per kilogram. And if it's mepivacaine, then it's 4.4 milligrams per kilogram. The articating is still the same. Okay, and then if we're going to compute for the epinephrine or the vasoconstrictor, so if you're going to use your drug with vasoconstrictor, then you have to separately, no, compute for this one. And the most common that we use is our epinephrine, or also supplied as adrenaline. So it doesn't compute based on the weight, but it is computed based on the cardiovascular condition of the patient. Okay, so if the patient is healthy, then we use the 0.2 milligrams. And if the patient has cardiovascular disorder or any restrictions, no, with the use of our vasoconstrictor, then we lessen the dose to 0.04 milligrams. Okay, so how do we compute, no, our drugs, no? And how do we quantify it? Okay, something that we can apply on a clinical level. Okay, so let's have an example. So let's have a case, no? So let's say, for example, our patient is a 50-year-old male patient, okay? Healthy. Always take into consideration the medical condition of the patient. So in this case, let's start first with a healthy individual. Okay, and we take note of the weight because we will be using the weight as a reference for our LA, no, computation. So can you give me a way? Yes. Let's take, for example, the patient weighs 50, male. So, mabigat siya. Sabihin na natin 90 kilograms. Okay? 90 kilograms. Okay. And you're going to do a procedure that would require you to use both the LA and the vasoconstrictor. So let's take, for example, you're going to be using your 2% lidocaine with 1:100,000 epinephrine. Kasya ba? Ito natin. Para kasya. Okay. So let us compute first the LA, which is the lidocaine. So let us compute for the lidocaine. And the lidocaine is 2%. Okay, so we do it step by step. Okay. So number one, we have to know first how many or how much lidocaine is in our cartridge. Okay. So how much lidocaine is in A? So another thing that you want to take note of is the volume of the cartridge. So our volume usually it's 1.8 ml, or there are those that is 1.5 and 1.7. Okay, so let's say for example the most common is the 1.8 ml cartridge. Okay, so dun sa 1.8 ml cartridge, how much lidocaine does it contain? Okay, so the next question is, what is the maximum dose of lidocaine for our patient? Sabihin na natin, this is patient A. Our patient A is 50-year-old male patient, weighing 90 kilograms. Okay. And the last question is, because this one is in milligrams, and we do not know how much is milligrams. So the one that we can measure is the cartridge. So what is the maximum number of cartridges of lidocaine for our patient A? You get it? Clear? Okay. The next one class is our yellow epinephrine. So we have to compute also the epinephrine. So it's the same questions, no? But this time we are computing for the epinephrine. And how much are we using? What's the concentration? 1:100,000. 100,000 epinephrine. So, same question. How much epinephrine? So we're still using the 1.8 ml is in a 1.8 ml cartridge. Okay? Then what is the maximum dose of epinephrine for our patient A? And what is the maximum number of cartridges, no, of epinephrine for our patient A? So basically, these are the questions. Okay, so let us compute. So our lidocaine is 2%. So we have to convert the percent into milligrams. Okay, so this is 2% is equivalent to 2 grams over 100 ml. Right? So if you have a 3% mepivacaine, then that is equivalent to 3 grams. Kita ba ang black class? Okay lang yung black. Okay, 3 grams over 100 ml. So let's say, for example, you're going to use your prilocaine or articaine. That's why you have to memorize CLASA. What is the percent of your drug and what is the ratio of your concentration of your vasoconstrictor? Your 4% LA is equivalent to 4 grams over 100 ml. So if you can see, you just change the grams and the constant value is the dilution, 100 ml. So the 2%, 2 grams in a 100 ml dilution, 3 grams in a 100 ml, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if we're going to compute for this, okay, then we have it as 2 grams over 100 ml. And then we convert the grams into milligrams. Kasi masyadong malaki yung grams. Nasa milligrams lang tayo. So we all know, class, that in 1 gram, there is equivalent of 1,000 milligrams. Tama? 1,000 milligrams is equal to 1 gram. That's why 2 times 1,000 over 100 ml pa rin. Okay, clear? So 2 times 1,000, it's 2,000 milligrams over 100. And if we're going to apply the principles of cancellation, di ba? So you cancel 2 0. And that means there is 20 milligrams in 1 ml. Correct? That's why if you read your label, minsan walang 2% to, nakalagay 20 milligrams per 1 ml. But we don't stop here yet because our carpule is 1.8 ml. This is only 1 ml. Diba? So in 1 ml, there is 20 milligrams of lidocaine. You let me know if you're getting confused. That's why you multiply it by 1.8 ml. Okay, can you do the computation? I don't have my calculator. Anyone? You write it on the chat box. So how much is 20 milligrams in a 1.8 ml cartridge? Okay, so your answer here, the number 1 is there are 36 milligrams in 1.8 ml. Clear? Okay, so iwan muna natin siya. Later, we will use that value. Let's go to our patient, no? So what is the maximum dose of our lidocaine if the patient weighs 90 kilograms? So if we're going to be using this table and we're using our lidocaine with epinephrine, kaya the one that we will use is this one, 7 milligrams per kilogram. Right? And our patient is adult, di ba? Kung pediatric yan, then you use the pediatric dose. Okay, so this one is 7 milligrams per kilograms up to, do not forget the up to, 500 milligrams. So let us compute. So in 1 kilogram, you can use up to 7 milligrams. So how much is the weight? 90. How much? 7 times 90. Medyo mabigat si patient. 630 milligrams. So that means if we're going to base it on the weight of the patient weighing 90 kilograms, the computation will have a 630. But that is class over the maximum dose because the maximum dose is only up to 500. Did you get it? So we will not use this value because we still have a control of only up to 500 milligrams. So your answer here should be 500 milligrams. Did you get it? Kung ang patient mo is on a lighter weight, sabihin natin, ano lang siya, 70 kilograms. 70 times 7 is how much? Pasok siya sa how much? 490. Then we will use 490. Get it? So on our patient, we use 500 because the patient is overweight more than the recommended dose. Okay. But how much is 500? No? And the only way we can measure this one is by the number of cartridges. So we said that answer number 1, in 1 cartridge, there is 36 milligrams. So that means your 500 milligrams divided by 36 milligrams. So how many carpules can we use? Anyone? 500 divided by 36 is compute. Dami, no? Yan. Okay, don't round it off, class, to your answer is 13.88 cartridges. Okay, so you use only up to 13.8 because if you're going to round it off to 14, then that is excess. Overdose situation. Did you get it? Any questions? So ang daming allowed, no? Pero this is just one way of prevention of toxicity, ha? Hindi ibig sabihin hanggang 13 pwede niyong gamitin. Okay? Any questions with this one? So for a lidocaine, we can use up to 13.8 cartridges. Okay, let's go to the next computation. Okay, so let's go now to actually may ano to eh. In 1 ml, 2 is 20 milligrams per ml. This is 30 milligrams per 1 ml. And this is 40 milligrams per ml. But I want you to show how to compute because this is only up to 1 ml, right? Okay, so let's go to our epinephrine. We're not yet done because there's another drug in the cartridge, which is our epinephrine. Okay, so same thing for this one. How much epinephrine is in a 1.8 ml cartridge? Okay, so if we're going to use class 1 is to 50,000 epinephrine, then this is equivalent to 1 gram over 50,000 ml. If we're using a 1 is to 100,000, then that means it is 1 gram over 100,000 ml. Okay, and if you're using a 1:200,000, then that is equivalent to 1 gram per 200,000 ml. So this one class, the constant value is the 1 gram. Lahat sila 1 gram, but depending on how much dilution, doon nag-iiba. Correct? So dito yung constant. Kanina sa LA, ang constant is the dilution. Okay, clear? Okay, so this time we're using our 1:100,000, which is 1 gram over 100,000. Okay, let's convert the grams into milligrams. So sabi natin, 1 gram times 1,000 milligrams over 100,000 ml. Okay, sundan nyo lang ako. 1,000 over 100,000. So you remove by cancellation. 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then that means 1 over 100. Okay, will you compute how much is 1 divided by 100 is 0.01. Okay, milligrams per ml. Be careful with the decimal point and be careful with the number of 0, class, ha? Okay, so are we done here? Not yet, because this is only 1 ml. So how much are we going to multiply? 1.8 ml is equivalent to, okay, marami na itong decimal. Okay, can you compute? 0.01 times 1.8 ml. What the others? Let's participate.
Hindi kayo
You
nagpo-compute
can
na.
follow. So, in 1.8 ml cartridge, there is 0.018 milligrams of epinephrine. Ang bigat. Okay. Minsan wala ring label yung cartridge nyo, itong lumalabas 0.01. So that means your epinephrine is a 1:100,000. Okay, continue. So, number 2, what is the maximum dose of epinephrine for our patient A? So, we're not going to compute based on the weight, but we're going to look for the recommended dose if the patient is healthy or with cardiovascular disease. So our patient is healthy. So the answer to number 2 is 0.2 milligrams. No need to compute, just write the correct recommended dose. Get it? But the next question is, how much is it in cartridges? No? So, 0.2 milligrams divided by, in one cartridge, there is 0.018. Huwag niyong ipagpalitin, ha? 0.2 divided by the number of, or how much is epinephrine in one cartridge. This is equivalent to 11.11, not milligrams, because this is the number of cartridge. Take note of the labeling also, ha? Not in milligrams. Cartridge, very good. Okay, so are we done? Not yet, because we have to analyze what we have computed. Okay, so the last question is, how much solution, lidocaine, how many carpus, sorry, what's my last question? How many Or what's the maximum number of cartridges of your LA solution, LA and vasoconstrictor solution for patient A. So how much are you going to use? So we said, based on our computation, lidocaine is up to 13.8 cartridges, while your epinephrine is up to 11.11. So which one will you follow? Are you going to use up to 13 or are you going to use up to 11? What do you think? So you have to choose. Are you going to use up to 13 or are you going to use up to 11? You're going to use what? The lower value. Okay, so you are to use only 11 cartridges only. Why? Because if you use 11, then you are still safe. If you use 11, then you are still safe with lidocaine and you are still safe with epinephrine. Walang overdose dyan. Diba? But if you use the higher value of 13, you are safe with lidocaine, but you are not safe anymore with epinephrine. So which one will you have overdose? Epinephrine. Did you get it? Here. Ilang question. Okay, so when you are computing, take note of what LA, what's the percent of LA, take note of vasoconstrictor, what's the concentration of vasoconstrictor, take note of the weight of the patient, take note of the medical condition of the patient, and take note also of what is the volume of your solution. Is it 1.7, 1.8, 1.5? Take note also of the age of the patient. Is it a healthy adult or a healthy pediatric patient? Clear. O gusto nyo, litihin ko pa kayo. Okay, so doc, I use 2% lidocaine with 1:100,000 epinephrine. Let's take, for example, you use your lidocaine and you're in the middle of the procedure. Nyari, naubusan ka. Yun yung reason. Naubusan. Okay, the question is, can we combine your LA? Different LA. So the question is, can you combine? Yes. Okay. So at first time, you're in the middle of the procedure and initially you use your 2% lidocaine with 1:100,000 epinephrine. And then you're going to use another LA for some reason. Kunyari, naubusan ka. And what is available in your clinic is a 4% lidocaine, articaine. With 1:100,000 epinephrine. Same patient to, ha? Okay. Question, can you combine your articaine and lidocaine? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. But you have to compute for the maximum dose. Okay. So same question, class. Number 1 for the articaine. How much articaine is in a 1.8 ml cartridge? Number 2, what is the maximum dose of articaine for patient A. We're still talking of the same patient. And number 3, what is the maximum number of cartridges of Articaine for patient A? Okay, let us compute. So we're talking of Articaine per person. Do you know how to compute? So this one is 4 grams per 100 ml. And this one is 4 times 1,000 milligrams over 100 ml of solution. Okay. Let me know if you are confused, but we're just doing the same computation, but different values. 4,000 over 100 ml. So let us cancel 20, and this is 40 over 1 ml times 1.8 ml and 21. Yun dami. 72? Tama? Okay, 72 milligrams. Okay, so let's take a look at our table. So Articaine is 7 milligrams also, up to 500 milligrams. Yan natin baka parehong lumabas. 7 milligrams per kilogram up to 500 milligrams. Okay, so it means 7 times, what's the weight of our patient? 90 is equivalent to 630. So we're not going to use this because it's over the 500. So our answer here is 500 milligrams. Correct? Okay. So what's the maximum number of cartridges? So how many cartridges? 500 divided by 72 is equivalent to, how many cartridges, class? Let me know if we are fast, then we will slow down. 6.9. Correct? Okay, we're not going to compute for the epinephrine because it's the same one is to 100,000, and then we still have the same value of 11 cartridges. Correct? Sige, let's analyze. Our lidocaine a while ago is 13.8. The epinephrine is how much? 11.11. So if we're going to use Articaine, it's 6.9, and the equivalent of epinephrine also is 11.11. So we said that here, what will you follow? 11, correct? But here, class, how many are you going to follow? Do you get it, class? So we use the smaller value. So hanggang 6.9 lang tayo. Okay, so let us apply. So initially, sabi natin, you use your lidocaine with epinephrine. And you were able to administer 5 cartridges. Tapos naubusan ka. Diba? And you're still not yet done, and the patient is already feeling pain, and the available solution in your clinic is your Articaine. Correct? So, if you're going to stick with your lidocaine initially, you are allowed up to 11. Correct? Pero naka-5 ka na. Pwede ka pa hanggang 6 cartridges. Do you agree? But this time, you're going to change and use another one, which is Articaine with epinephrine, and you're only allowed only up to 6.9. So, hindi ka na pwedeng hanggang 6. Ito kasi pwede ka pang mag-add ng 6. Correct? Pero this time, class, how many can you use? Hanggang 6 ka na lang. 1 cartridge ka na lang. Or 1.9 cartridges. Do you follow? Nakuha ni Ralph. How about the others? Did you get it? Kasi you are only allowed to use the smaller value, which is 6.9, with all of this combination. Kaya if you initially deposited 5 cartridges, hanggang 1.9 ka na lang na solution. Okay? So there's no problem with adding as long as you know how much can you still add, diba? Based on the maximum. Any questions? Pagka-pediatric, diba? Any questions?
So, no questions? Ready na for the final exam? Okay. So, this is our last lecture. Sino na? Kapiral, Dancel, and Lise, no? So, please announce that next